So, topic this month is raising Moneywise kids. One of my favorite things to do in this business is to open up a new account for a brand new investor or someone who's just getting established in a career. I just think it's so important that you can establish those financial habits early that are going to give you that long-term success. The clippets that you're seeing in this video are from my own kids, 17 to 23, and then my niece and nephews on my brother and sister-in-law side, who are basically the exact same age as my own kids. I find it fascinating in that all of them were brought up in very similar circumstances with regards to values and how we were talked about money and things like that. And yet you can see from their answers in the clips, they have very different sort of psychology behind how they think about money. Don't know how much of that is nature versus nurture, how much is boy girl, how much of that is birth order. But the important point for me to get across is no matter how your kids think of it, they should be thinking of it. Do you think of yourself as a saver or a spender?
A saver.
A saver,
Yes.
for sure. Alex?
I'm a spender.
You're a spender.
I'm a big time spender.
We live in a generation where our kids are the first generation that are expected to be less well off than their parents. Retirement planning has been downloaded onto our own shoulders. The days of you working for one company and then retiring 25 years later from the same company with this great pension and benefits are, I'm going to say, not gone, but they're very, very rare. Nowadays, the average person is more likely to switch jobs or actually switch careers 7, 8 times, never mind jobs. Maddie, do you know what the average house costs in Vancouver?
Oh man.
1.5 million. Is that
You
true?
just pulled that out of your hat.
That's an absolutely random number.
Very confident. We live in a beautiful city in Vancouver, which is a double-edged sword in that while it's one of the most desirable cities to live in, it's also the second most expensive city to live in the world right now. RBC just came out with a report that states that 1 in 3 Canadians right now have given up on home ownership as a realistic goal. If we don't want our kids still living in our basement when they're in their 30s, we need to do as much as possible to give them those financial habits and tools that are going to allow them to be successful from a financial standpoint longer term. Can you think of any money words of wisdom surrounding either investing, financial planning?
Well, you always tell me, so I remember it. Save more than you spend.
Good.
It's a classic one.
Yes.
And certain percentages into savings, and then whatever's left over, you can spend if you want or whatever.
For the short attention span among you, I'm going to give you sort of the Coles notes of what we're trying to get across to our kids. They need to save more than they spend and invest the difference. That will put them ahead of 50% of their peer group right off the bat. It sounds simple, and it is, but it's not easy to do. I kind of equate financial habits with health fitness habits. We all know that if we want to be fit and if the desire is to have a healthy lifestyle, you need to balance out how much you intake versus how much you put out. So basically you're looking at healthy eating habits combined with exercise. Everybody needs to have the healthy eating habits down at some point. You can't get away with eating unhealthily for forever. You can in your 20s, you can in your 30s. It gets a lot harder as you get older. Same thing with financial health. If you wait until your 40s, 50s before you establish those healthy eating habits, chances are in a lot of cases it's too late. Once you have the diet part down, then you got to find the exercise part. And for some people that might be team sports. For some people that might be, exercising in terms of going to the gym or finding a class or going hiking. The important point is you have to find something that you can stick with, something that you enjoy is going to be easier to stick with. And with kids, it's the same thing when it comes to their financial habits. Some of them are going to be natural Rockefellers, and those ones that have that natural interest, you want to encourage and give the platform to go ahead and be successful. Other ones, it's going to take a lot of time to kind of dig and find the way that they connect with money. But kind of burying your head in the sand and ignoring it is not the answer. Jordo, how about you?
No, I'm just trying to get as much money as I can.
Just want the biggest pile at the end of the day. Really important as the kids are growing up that you're talking about money. You need to demystify what things cost and how we pay for things. From the really young ages, kids used to think that our kids used to think that our money was just kept in the bank machine, and I didn't have the understanding that we were trading our time for money, and then we're in turn trading that money for lifestyle. So we would talk about when we went on vacation, why are we flying versus why wouldn't we drive? What hotel choices we stayed in, the difference in costs when we went out for meals, the difference between buying a steak and a hamburger is not just desire, it's also monetary considerations that go into it. As the kids got older, we talked about things like, do you lease a car versus buy a car, the difference in financing costs, and why one might be better than the other, or what it's actually costing in terms of dollars. Do you know how much a teacher makes?
Yeah, 80,000.
80,000.
Ooh.
Not bad. Our kids know how much my wife and I make. They know the incomes that my wife is a teacher. They know the incomes that they would make if they would become the teacher. Two of them are on that road already, and then they know what I would make as a financial planner. Again, we're just trying to demystify that, and we're trying to get them to understand that any decision that we make from a lifestyle has got to be backed up by the finances to be able to afford it. And this is something that is not a one-time conversation. It's something that we talk about all the time. So our kids are kind of going into university and looking at jobs and looking at potential career paths. Like I pulled out, this is what the average teacher makes. This is what you would make if you ended up with a math degree, went into engineering, if you went into, and again, it's not that we're discouraging them to follow their hearts or to find something that they love, but if they don't have that passion from an early age, I would really hope that you can find a passion in one of the areas that pays better. It just makes a little bit more sense to me. Have you ever done anything in your lives that made you think of money differently?
I guess like even just working, like shows how money just doesn't come. You get work like 8 hours and first paycheck's only $110. It's like
It's not enough for the kids to simply read or hear us talk about how much things cost. They need a way to actually identify with it more directly, which is why, from an early age, like, they need a way of earning money. Even if it's just forming an allowance that's tied to them actually accomplishing tasks. They need to understand that trade-off between their time and what they're going to get paid. Every kid needs a part-time job. Um, as the kids actually found real jobs other than just allowance stuff, they gained a much deeper appreciation for how much it would cost to actually fill up a tank of gas, or how much it would cost if they wanted to go out for food and pay for it on their own. So I think it's really important that they both have some means of earning funds, and also that they're responsible for paying for some of those things, some of those lifestyle choices themselves. I think those are important lessons that you've got to get across to them at an early age. I also think it's really important that as they're earning money, that you don't make them pay for everything. You give them that capacity to save some of it. To take that money and actually put it into different buckets. One bucket for spending, one bucket for saving for shorter term goals, and one bucket for saving for longer term goals. Those are the habits that we want to be creating with them as they learn to, again, trade their time for money. Once you've got those savings habits, once they've got some money, then the next step is to actually get them investing. And that for me is the fun part. It's taking those funds and trying to get it to work for them, trying to get it in a spot where they're actually making some money from their money. And if I were to take a 60-year-old who were coming with a big portfolio of money, I would be investing it much, much differently than I would a 16, 17, 20-year-old. One, for obvious reasons because of age, but secondly, I think at those early ages, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to get them engaged. You're trying to get them excited about what their money can be doing for them. And so rather than just pull out a really balanced pension-like portfolio, which might be more appropriate for someone as they get older, when they first get going, I think it's good for them to sort of try to identify with where their money's going. So like I have conversations with my kids and with my nieces and my nephews and any new adult that's opening their account. Said, well, what interests you? What do you do? What do you find passionate? Where do you spend your money? Do you know who makes whatever product that it is that you're using? Alex is a computer programmer. We own Amazon, and we own an e-commerce ETF in emerging markets with stocks like Alibaba and Tencent and Baidu. And these are companies that he comes in contact with at a regular basis. What was the first stock we bought together?
Nike.
No.
Oh.
What? Oh, sorry. AIG.
Yes.
And then I went bankrupt.
And
then we went to Nike.
Why did we buy AIG?
It was Man United's sponsor.
Yes. When the kids were really young, my own kids, we're a big soccer family and we're big supporters of Manchester United. And at the time, Manchester United was a private company, but the shirt sponsor for Manchester United was AIG. And so the first stock that was right across their shirt, the AIG, first stock that we bought Jake was AIG. And some of you might remember, but AIG was actually the largest bankruptcy in the world at the time that it went bankrupt, which happened to be about a year after we bought it for Jake. And I still remember the conversation with him saying, Dad, why would people give you their money if you're just going to lose it all? It's a good question. And I tried to explain to him, well, you're going to make some mistakes in this business and it's okay. You've got time to recover. We actually did sell out the AIG shares when it was down about 50%, and we ended up buying Nike. And since that point, Nike's come back and it's made what he lost, and he's earned even more money from it. Do you know what you're invested in, Maddie?
Like where my money is?
Yes.
I give it to you. Where is it, Dad? Tell me.
With my daughter, we bought Lululemon, and we used to go to Whistler every year. We still go to Whistler every year, but every summer we go up there. And for those of you that have been up there or were going up to Whistler for a while, there used to be the flagship store in the middle of Whistler used to be a Nike store. And then one year we went up there and it closed down, and the Nike store had been replaced by a Lululemon store. Lululemon is the stock that we bought for my daughter, and she thought that was the greatest thing because she was convinced that Lululemon had taken over Nike, and so her company was better than Jake's company. Not exactly how it works, but the fact that they have interest and they could tell you what they're invested in, I thought was a positive thing. My youngest son, we bought EA Sports. We would get these notifications that he was buying stuff online on EA Sports. We go down and ask him about it. It's like, don't worry, Dad, I'm just investing in my own company. Again, not exactly how it works, but it did foster an interest. We're talking to my niece about opening her accounts. We talked about Indigo because she loves to read, and we bought Aritzia, it's their favorite clothing store. Things that they have interest with. I think that's really important that if you can generate that will allow them to foster more of a relationship with money or identify a bit more as to where that's going. Doesn't always work. You may have seen for the responses, my daughter, yes, she knows she owns Lululemon, but for the rest of it, she really doesn't care. And that's okay too, because she's at a spot where she might not know exactly where the money is being invested, but she does have that habit of investing, and she knows it's going somewhere. Max, what
Yes.
does money mean to you?
I think actually like money is partially freedom. I think, in a way that it will give you any means to do whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to invest in yourself, invest in something in a business, and or even vacations, do things, even giving. You can, with money, you can help make more change. I think, which is pretty cool.
Have you ever done anything that has made you think about money differently?
Yeah. The past 2 years I started tithing. It's made me think about it as less stressful, and money will come and go and you always have it, but to always kind of be conscious of it. So I think tithing's done a lot for me.
One of the other things I think is really important when it comes to building sound financial habits with kids is to make sure that the psychology behind money is sound, in the sense that there's something about money that can create shackles or almost a feeling of bondage to it if you become obsessed with the idea of just accumulating this power of money. And study after study will tell you that giving money away is a way of freeing yourself from the danger of becoming enslaved to a job or to the idea of just building wealth. Just by virtue of living in Canada, that puts us in one of the top percentages worldwide of financial well-being. And I think that kind of letting the kids see things through a bigger lens than just living, here in the Vancouver area is something that can be really enlightening and eye-opening for them. Have you ever done anything that makes you think of money differently?
We did a project here working with refugees from Syria, and that was really insightful into how extremely poor people can be, and what does it take to just have a maintainable lifestyle at all here in Canada. So I think working closely with them definitely opened my eyes a lot to the vast income inequality kind of in this kind of area.
So with our kids locally, we always made sure that we were doing something with the charity with regards to either giving money or time. Kids have worked with Syrian refugees as they came over, helping their families kind of move into neighborhoods and running sort of sports-based programs for the kids. On a little bit more global scale, they've had the privilege of traveling to Africa and working in orphanages and running camps for some of those kids in those areas. And I think every one of the kids that have had that experience will tell you that it really was something that gave them a real deep appreciation for what they have here. And it's something that can be really important when it comes to one, sort of avoiding that sense of entitlement that is very easy to pick up living in a very wealthy society, and also that appreciation for the fact that money can buy things other than just the latest clothes and cars and that sort of stuff. So I think those are habits that I think were really important for our kids to get into themselves early. Can you think of any specific advice
Yes.
on money or financial planning or setting financial goals that has stuck with you?
I think that understanding how you spend money, what your habits are with money, that's a big one. I know I'm a spender. A lot of that has come from my dad telling me that I'm a spender. And so taking my paycheck, I have money come out as soon as I get paid, and
How do
putting.
you feel about that?
Well, it sucks. But then it's done, right? You don't need to be like, okay, I gotta go put that away right now. It's out of your bank accounts, out of your mind. You've done saving.
And the last thing I think is really important is with kids, in all things, more is caught than taught. So you got to watch how you talk about money. You got to make sure that you're doing the right habits with your own finances, because the kids are going to pick that sort of stuff up. If money is a stress point or a pain point in your lives, if it's something that you guys worry over, it's something that you guys never talk about, very difficult for them to pick up those habits on their own. So again, it's important that we talk about things. They understand that the value that money has with regards to their time, not just in terms of an accumulation of what it is. And it's important that they're comfortable and they find the way that they can be successful investing. Lots of different ways that they could invest. There's more than one way for them to reach their financial goals. Just on our own product shelf here at World Source Securities, and we've got over 40,000 different products that are available for sale. More than one of them is capable of helping them reach financial security. But the better that they can identify with where their money is and the better that they understand it, generally speaking, the better off they're going to be longer term. Hope that's helpful. I last did this presentation 10 years ago. I said at that point we'll see how our kids are doing in 10 years as to whether I've done a good job with raising Moneywise kids. I've really enjoyed putting this video together in the sense that it's allowed me to see or get a better understanding of where my kids are at. I consider it partially successful. They all have investment accounts. They're all contributing regularly to it. And yet, obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done as well. Thank you.